A very warm welcome to this special Super Bowl episode of the HuddleUK podcast. The big game is just one day away if you're listening to this episode on the day of release. Sunday is the big one, of course, in New Orleans, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. We've got all the info from both camps ahead of that game. We're speaking to beat reporters, one from Philadelphia, one from Kansas City. And then, of course, we'll have our HuddleUK writers, Shelley, the Chiefs fan, and Nathan, the Eagles fan, on just to give their predictions and their thoughts at the end, give a little edge between the two of them. Shelley was spot on with her prediction in the AFC Championship game against the Buffalo Bills. Maybe she can go for 2 for 2, but you'll have to wait till the end of the episode to hear their predictions. Before we get into all the interviews with the beat writers, just one quick mention. Of course, all the content over at www.huddleuk.com. Again, all of our brilliant writers from all the teams. No matter who you support, you'll find content over there. We've also now got a betting writer who's put top 5 Super Bowl bets. That's going to be published on Saturday afternoon. So if you like a little gamble here, a little flutter there, always remember to gamble responsibly, of course. But if you do, head over to the HuddleUK website to take a look at Adam is the writer, his top 5 Super Bowl picks. And of course, remember to set your fantasy game day lineups on fantasygameday.app. Use the code HUDDUK when signing up there to get a free £7.50, and you'll be supporting us in the process. As we mentioned, 2 fantastic writers, 2 broadcasters from America on this episode. We've got Scott Grayson, who works for Fox Philadelphia. He's going to be first up. And then we're going to speak to Ed Easton, who's the Kansas City Chiefs reporter, both talking about the players they've spoken to in the camps, the vibes going into the game, the three-peat, not the three-peat. Of course, Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes, a lot of conversation on those. And the coordinators and the mind games that are going to go into the 2 teams ahead of the big one at the Superdome, the Super Bowl at the Superdome. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the game wherever you'll be watching it, whether you're going to be out and about in towns, in bars, or whether you're going to be at home like you'll hear Nathan talking about later on in the episode. He sounds like he's going to have a ball of a night on his sofa, and I really hope that you have Mondays off work, or if you don't, a later start, and I hope you drag yourselves in on time. Without further ado, we're going to get started with Scott. Thank you very, very much for listening, and enjoy the episode. Well, first up, joining the huddle today is sports anchor for Fox 29 Philadelphia, also the host of the Sports Sunday show on there, and an Eagles reporter for ESPN Radio, Scott Grayson. We needed to get someone who knows Philadelphia, knows the Eagles inside out, and there's no better person to do it. You've been out in New Orleans, you're there currently. How's it been? What's the build-up been like, and the players you've been chatting to?
The build-up's been great. It's been nice to talk with the players. I always love getting down here and seeing them in the element, because I think part of the story is how are they handling the week that is Super Bowl week, because of it's all different. It's not like any other week during the season. So there's so much media here from all over the world. It's great to see that kind of interest, in the game from Australia and Spain and Mexico, and like you guys from overseas in the UK. It's great. And I think the players kind of enjoy it. What I saw from the Eagles, because I was around them, was that they enjoyed all that kind of extra attention, and I thought they handled it pretty well. So for me, that's what I like to see, is how are they handling all that. And then, it's just the rest of it is, the build up, as you talked about it. It's really building now, and the excitement is growing that we're finally getting closer and closer to actually playing this game.
Were there any players in particular who, had any good anecdotes this week, or, so you'll had it, I'm sure, where some players are a bit more media savvy and sort of toe the line, and there's others who just, say what they think, it comes off the top of their head. Was there any good ones this week?
Yeah, I mean, there are some guys who really seem to like the off-the-wall stuff, and then there are guys who would rather just talk football. I guess I don't really have any good stories of anything that guys said specifically, because I was more interested in just trying to talk to them about the game. But I have seen them having fun. And like Brandon Graham, who's one of my favorite guys to cover, this could be his very well his last game. He is coming back from an injury, and we think he's going to play Sunday. But he's a high energy guy. He loves to talk trash and talk to the other team and talk them down. And we heard some stories from him and his teammates about some of the times he's done that this season. He loves to get the other team fired up, including guys that he doesn't have to go against or block or try to get through. So it's funny hearing those kind of stories from his teammates. One guy came out, Lane Johnson, who's an offensive lineman, was saying to us earlier this season, Brandon Graham was out there talking trash to the guy that he was going to have to block, and he said, "Yeah, I don't know why this guy was so mad at me." He's like, then I come to find out, Brandon Graham was sitting there telling him, "Oh, you're in for a long day today."
I love a bit of mouth and a little bit of edge. Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that in sport. What's the situation with the centres? Because obviously they were both half limping at times in the divisional rounds. In the NFC Championship game. Are they both okay now?
Yeah, it's a great observation by you. I mean, the fact that they had the extra week, I think, is a big deal. You're talking about Cam Jurgens as the starting center, and then Landon Dickerson was the one who played in his place, and then he was, as you said, limping off the field. The team issued their the injury report from today, which was their final practice. Both those guys were not on it in any way other than to say they were a full participant at practice. So the belief is, and they were telling us directly that they're going to play. So in that case, I mean, are they going to be 100%? That's hard to say. Probably not, but I think they're going to be close enough that they're not going to miss this game. These guys work so hard to get here. There is no game after this, right? So whatever they do to their bodies, they can hopefully recover from.
Everyone talks Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts,
Uh-huh.
and obviously massive weapons, some of the best in the NFL. But the offensive line of the Eagles is what makes the whole team tick, doesn't it? It's among the best, very, very best in the league.
Again, great observation by you. And for everybody who's maybe new to football or not used to the football here, um, it's what you want to watch in this game because with the Eagles, it's really what sets the tone, like you pointed out. Saquon Barkley's done an amazing job, but he's also going 2 to 3 yards before anybody is touching him on average, which is a credit to the offensive line. They are getting their blocks, they're giving him the holes to hit, and then it's for him. It's a matter. He's such a big thick guy. He's got these thick legs. He's so strong that it's hard to bring him down. So if you don't get a good hit on him, he can break it. And that's why he's been so effective, is because he's been able to go a few yards before he gets hit, break one tackle along the way, and maybe at that point he might be gone. And he can hit, the home runs, as we call them, and make these 60, 70-yard touchdown runs that can really help define a win for this team. So, yeah, the offensive line to me is really a big aspect of their success.
I'm sure you've seen the stat as well, but I was reading the other day that he has more yards on average before contact this season than he had yards on any carry for the Giants last year, which is an absolutely mind-blowing statistic. And as you say, it just goes to say how incredible that offensive line is. But Saquon Barkley as well has had, 30 yards now he needs to break the single-season record for postseason and
Correct.
regular season combined. There's no way he doesn't do that on Sunday, is there?
Yeah, I mean, the only way he doesn't break it is if he gets hurt on the first or second carry. He should pass that. And he has a really good shot to be the first running back ever to go over 2,500 yards in league history when you combine the playoffs. He's just a special guy. And I'll tell you, from talking to him all season long, what I really love about him is how unselfish he is. He's very humble. He talked a lot about, legacy, but really his family name and what it means to his family, the success that he has had. I think that's refreshing to see and hear. And it makes him so likable. And, when you hear about and you see what he's done here, you realize perhaps how many struggles he went through in New York. And he told me he had talked to a therapist in this off season about the mental side of the game and really trying to get better at that. And it really helped him kind of set up mentally having the kind of season he's had this year. So that was a big thing for him to talk about.
But if he gets the same first play against the Chiefs as he does against the
Oh
Commanders,
yeah.
he'll breeze through that record within a minute, which is an amazing play. Jordan Mailata, have you seen the video as well of this on that play where he's laughing as he pushes AJ Brown into three Washington players? It's just a
Yeah.
hilarious clip from that
And,
game.
and you were talking about a funny story. AJ Brown was talking about that play, and he's like, "I blocked my guy." Next thing I know, I got pushed from behind, and I thought, that I had that I blocked the other people as well. And he's like, "No, it was." He said, "I realized when I saw the replay, it was Jordan Mailata did it." And Jordan also came up to him afterwards on the sideline and apologized to him. "I'm sorry, man. Sorry, mate," as he says from Australia, and he's such a fun guy too. I mean, what an improbable story he is, coming from rugby in Australia to be the one of the best tackles in the game now.
a lot of people from my neck of the woods, like a stone's throw here in South Wales from where Lewis Rhys-Sammet grew up, and he had a lot of attention going through the IPP this year. And, he's a star athlete, but he has shown how hard it is to break into the NFL, even as an elite rugby player. But Jordan Mailata is the success story of that. I also loved in that video, he laughs like a 5-year-old kid. He's this massive dude, and he's giggling like a child on the playground. It just seems that I think that as a Chargers fan myself, it's been something this year that we've really noted. But the Eagles camp seems so happy, doesn't it?
I think it's one of the reasons they're here. They, early in the season, anybody who was following them, they were not having a lot of success. They were 2-2 through 4 games. Then they went into their bye week, and they seemed to kind of regroup a little bit. And from there on out, they seemed tighter, closer. The chemistry between all of them was better. And I think they became more unselfish and wanted to win for each other. You don't see that a lot in the NFL. A lot of these guys are playing for their own personal paycheck. And I think it was a little refreshing to see that these guys came together in that way. And I really think that that's the reason why they are here. They stopped playing selfish. It didn't matter who made the tackle or made the interception or scored the touchdown. They were more than happy to just keep racking up the yards. Whoever did it, it was great for the team. And as long as they kept winning, everybody was happy. And that's really what I think got them here.
I think similarly to the Kansas City Chiefs, it's efficiency has been the key word this year. Kansas aren't doing these 60-yard chunk plays every game at the moment, but they're grinding out wins. And the Eagles have done, although they did blow Washington out of the water in the end 2 weeks ago. Jalen Hurts is the leader of this team, someone, not an Eagles fan myself, but someone who I think is constantly underrated. You see fans putting their opinions on Twitter all the time of top 5 NFL quarterbacks or top 10. And for me, he's criminally underrated. And everyone goes, oh, it's a tush push. Anyone can do it from a yard. But as Josh Allen and the Bills showed, not everyone can do it from a yard. And Josh Allen's a significantly bigger bloke. He is the leader as well on the field. You can see it, isn't he? A real star of the game.
He stays level-headed, and I think that's what you respect most about him. Even when adversity hits, he seems to not get rattled. And I think the players respect that. They rally around that. I agree with you. I think he has been underrated. A lot of times when people talk about the top quarterbacks in the league, you don't hear his name. Yet he's been now to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. And I think, when we were talking a little bit about this during the week, if he doesn't win this game, he's another guy who lost to Mahomes. He lost to Mahomes again. But if he does win this game, he's one of the few that actually beat Mahomes. And I really do believe he will finally get some of that respect that puts him in the upper echelon of the quarterbacks in this league. And it will be interesting to see how it plays out and what that means for him personally in terms of the respect that he should get. The players on the team respect him an awful lot. They talk about it all the time. But yeah, nationally around here in America and around the league, he does not seem to get a lot of that respect that a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson, a Patrick Mahomes, certainly, a Joe Burrow even, that they get.
Chiefs and the Eagles, I mean, they're not geographically close as rivals, but because of the last few years with the success they've had, there is this bit of edge between the two. How much from the Eagles camp, because that's where you've been spending your time, are people talking about trying to stop the Chiefs winning the three-peat? How much of it a driving factor? I know they'll probably say, oh, we're focusing on our game and our sides of it, but you'll be talking to people off camera and off mic. There must be that slight edge of, we'd love to stop them doing it.
I think what it is for these guys is, and I think behind the scenes they're a little happy that this was the matchup, because for them it's unfinished business. They say that, the ones who were here 2 years ago, they lost to this team, and now they have the chance to get, to the top of their sport, the top of their league, to win that title over the team that they lost to before. It's a chance, if you will, to kind of make it right. So they're not really talking about stopping the three-peat. I think every other player in the league doesn't want to see Kansas City get the three-peat, so they're talking about it. But this team in particular is really focused, I think, on unfinished business and trying to bring home what they weren't able to bring with them on the plane 2 years ago.
Do you think, the hardest question in the world, but do you think this one does have a different ending?
I really do. I think when you look at the Eagles and the Chiefs, player by player, and I've talked to a lot of people this week, even in the media, that are not from Philadelphia, who feel the same way. The Eagles have a better roster. And they are better at almost every position. Now, where you look at the Chiefs and you say they're a little better is quarterback and head coach. And those are two important places in this league. If you have the better head coach and the better quarterback, sometimes that's enough to win. And so I think people will say the Eagles have the better roster, and due to respect, will also say, but, because they have the better head coach and the better quarterback, you can't take anything for granted here. And the Eagles had a lead at the halftime 2 years ago, and I think they kind of relaxed a little bit. And Lane Johnson, one of the offensive linemen who obviously started in that game, talked a little bit about how they didn't really make a lot of adjustments at halftime with the longer halftime than what is normally the case in the NFL. Um, Super Bowl halftime is longer. They kind of sat there and just kind of relaxed and tried to regroup and be ready to go back out there and give it their all in the second half. Well, the Chiefs took that time to make adjustments, and it ended up leading to a win. I think they understand the experience of being there 2 years ago, the experience of what this week is in front of the media, the experience of that game and how long the breaks are in halftime. And it's not the same as a regular game. They took a lot away from that I think will help them win this game. And I do like them to win and beat the Chiefs.
There's no such thing as comeback coach of the year, but when the Eagles were 2-2 going into that bye week, people were calling for Sirianni's head on a plate.
Yep.
I mean, he has turned the team around so much. A lot has been, as you mentioned earlier, that bye week, they really had to knuckle down, didn't they?
They really did. And I think to a credit, Nick Sirianni was talking to some of his veteran leaders on the team and trying to get a feel for that. And that's where guys like Lane Johnson went to him and said, we need to run the ball more. We can do this. This offensive line is winning our battles. We can push them around, the opponents, and win and by running the ball more. And to Sirianni's credit and Kellen Moore, they listened to that. They started doing more of that. And that's where this team started to find success on offense. And then on defense, I think they just got used to playing Vic Fangio's system more and more. 4, 5, 6 games in, you certainly understand it better than you did 1, 2, 3. And I think that's why both sides of the ball sort of seemed to come together at the same time, was around that. But they like playing for Sirianni. They like what he does for them behind the scenes. He really does seem to motivate them. I can't remember a time that I said, oh, this team came out flat and they weren't prepared. Maybe they lost for other reasons, but it wasn't that. And I think that the players really do respect Sirianni. And as you alluded to, around Philadelphia, there was a lot of questions and people saying, should Nick Sirianni still be the head coach? And the players rallied around that. And I think that was a big part of how they all kind of came together, was partly around him.
Well, HuddleUK, we've got a writer for every team, so we asked them all to put votes in for Player of the Year, the same awards that they hand out in the NFL. And on the Defensive Rookie of the Year, it went to Jared Verse from the Rams. But second and third place were both for the Eagles, with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. I can't think of an example where two rookies from the same side of the ball would come in a top three of a vote like that. They nailed that draft last year, didn't they?
It's been one of the most impressive things. The general manager, Howie Roseman, has done a masterful job this past season. I mean, Zach Bond was just up for, he didn't get it, but was up for Defensive Player of the Year. This is a guy who he only played special teams before he came here, and now he's just become a superstar. But you mentioned those two rookies. They hit on them. Quinyon Mitchell has just been as good of a corner as there is. Like, I've had people telling me he's as good as many of the other veterans in the league. He's played that well. And Cooper DeJean, when he got inserted into the starting lineup after that bye week at nickel, the way he's been able to be physical with some of the tight ends out there, as well as some of the receivers, he has done a really good job as well of being able to stay with receivers and getting up to speed in the game. And they're not rookies anymore. A lot of the guys like Darius Slay, the veterans on the team, they're not rookies anymore. This is their 21st game of the year for the Eagles. They're not rookies, and they have grown into that role where they've earned a ton of respect. And it really was a masterful job, as you said, by Howie Roseman in the draft to get those guys. In the draft before, they got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, who are both making big contributions, this year. So they've really hit on a lot of key pieces. Of course, Saquon Barkley.
Jalen Carter's a monster of a man, isn't he?
He is.
Absolutely enormous. You mentioned there Cooper DeJean and being physical against tight ends. That's going to be crucial on Sunday. Travis Kelce's not had his most prolific season in the NFL, but he's still going to be the guy. I mean, Xavier Worthy's got the speed, but in these big moments, Patrick Mahomes always seems to turn to him. Do you think there's been a particular focus on making sure Kelce doesn't get these big chunk gains?
Yeah, I think the Eagles really are going to try to make life miserable for Travis Kelce. And it started with seeing what they were doing last week in Philadelphia before they left in practice. Before the cameras were all kicked out, you would see that they had two guys on who was playing Travis Kelce. The Eagles used one of their old tight ends, who was a big-bodied guy, Brent Selleck, who's still in a support role with the team. They used him to simulate Travis Kelce's size, and they had two guys on him, whether it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a safety, combined with a linebacker, or a Cooper DeJean. They wanted to make sure they kind of blanketed around him, and that told me that they're going to try to make sure that Travis Kelce does not beat them in this Super Bowl. They're going to make Patrick Mahomes have to beat him with other guys and in other ways. So I think that's something to watch in this game is how do the Eagles try to attack Travis Kelce? And I think that is, to me, that's what I would do. I would have two guys around him and say to Mahomes, if you want to throw it into a tight window, feel free. We're going to have two guys there who are going to try to take it away before he can get it. And so it's going to be one of those fascinating chess matches that you watch is what the Eagles do with Travis Kelce. And depending on the situation, if it's, a third and really long, maybe they loosen up a little bit, but they don't let him get past the first down marker. I don't know. We'll see how they do. But that's what I saw leading up to this game that they were doing to try to deal with Travis Kelce. And I like the idea.
I think you can be sure that the Chiefs defense are talking about the exact same things with A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley. They're two really good defenses. Do you think, because you mentioned the Eagles-Pats Super Bowl from a few years ago, which was one of the best ones of the last decade or so, a brilliant, brilliant Super Bowl. Do you think there's a chance that the defenses can be so good on Sunday that it's a low-scoring affair, or do you think because of how good the likes of Barkley and Mahomes are on both sides of the ball, we're going to have a high-scoring, entertaining one for the neutrals?
I think with the extra week to prepare and the offensive coordinators having that extra week to try to put some things in to try to find ways to score, I'm saying the Eagles win 30-23. So I do see points. But with these two defenses, it really is possible. And here's the other thing. The Chiefs don't have the home run hitters. They will go on those 10, 11, 12, 13 play drives that eat up clock, take a while. They're happy to move the chains and ultimately put it in the end zone. That's the way they kind of beat you down because they keep your offense off the field. So it's a combination for them between what their defense does and then how the offense can kind of milk time off the clock while they go down the field and try to score. The Eagles have had more luck, getting the ball in quicker, whether it's Saquon Barkley, as you saw in the first play of the NFC Championship game going all the way, or, every now and then a big pass play can get them down the field. And with their defense being what it is, I don't see the Chiefs scoring over 24 points in this game. And I think if they don't, I think that is how the Eagles will win the game because I do think they can score. They did have success against Steve Spagnuolo 2 years ago, who's the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. That was involved Jalen Hurts doing a lot of the running, and he didn't have a running back like Saquon Barkley in that game. So, I just think ultimately the points will be there. I just don't think these defenses will be able to keep both these quarterbacks out of the end zone. But I think one defense is going to make a big play in this game that could ultimately win it.
It's a silly comment, I know, but turnovers are going to be so important in this game.
Oh, there's no doubt. If you look at why the Eagles have won, it's because they have not turned the ball over. Sometimes Jalen Hurts even holds the ball and takes a sack when I know Philly fans are pulling their hair out, yelling, he should have thrown the ball away, he should have thrown it downfield. He does not want to turn it over. Somewhere somebody got to him and said, if you don't turn the ball over, we are good enough that we will have a chance to win this game, any game. And he's bought into that. At the same time, this defense has just been forcing a lot of turnovers throughout the playoffs that have made life a lot easier for them. And I think that's part of it. And so turnovers really will be a big key. I mean, 2 years ago, a lot of Eagles fans remember that Jalen Hurts had that he was just running with the ball and his knee knocked it out of his hand. It was a bad fumble. It was a turnover. It cost them, and a lot of people believe that's what cost them that Super Bowl. So yes, turnovers are always, it's the easiest thing to make it sound like you know what you're talking about for football. Hey, the team that turns it over the least is probably going to win the game. Yeah, I mean every head coach will say that. But in this game in particular, I agree with you. I think that there could be one big turnover that sets the tone for one of these teams to ultimately win it.
As a reporter who watches them week in, week out, what's your view on the tush push? Personally, I love it. I think if it doesn't break the rules, if you can do it, you use what you've got, go for it. But it does cause a bit of uproar, doesn't it?
It does. And, I love it too, because I think the Eagles found something that they can do with their personnel that, as you alluded to earlier when we were talking, Josh Allen wasn't able to do with the Bills. Other teams haven't been able to mirror the success that the Eagles have had with that play. And they did show earlier in this season that they will run a fake off of it, and they almost connected for a long touchdown. It was just overthrown by Jalen Hurts. I would not be surprised to see a fake tush push here in this game that leads to potentially a big play. I could see them trying it, but they have had a lot of success with it. I know everybody else around the league hates it, but they can't stop it. And it's like if you, to me, anytime anybody who's ever been competitive in anything and plays a sport, if you don't like what somebody's doing, just stop them from doing it. And they're going to have to stop doing it. Nobody has figured out a way to stop this play. And what cracks me up is that people will, like last week, will try going over the top and diving over the top. The way to
Just
stop
think
the
you
play
do
to
it.
me is underneath. If you can stop the momentum underneath, then you would ultimately, I think, you'd stand up the blockers that keep Jalen Hurts from getting over the line that he's trying to cross. So yeah, it cracks me up when they do that. Now, I have heard some debate this week that because of how people are more and more players are going over the top, it becomes a player health issue that somebody doesn't inadvertently get hit or hurt because of that. And that perhaps could be something that causes it to get banned. They debated about it last year, and it was kept in. I think because nobody can replicate it like the Eagles, it should be allowed to stay in, and I am a fan of it.
I know they tried to get rid of it last year. I feel like it's something that's on a bit of a time clock. It might not go this year or next year, but I think eventually the league will have their way. Are you at the game then on Sunday?
No, I'm actually going to be heading back to Philadelphia to help with our coverage of any potential victory celebrations in the city and covering the team from there. So, my coverage is during the week, and then I get back there to help with all the coverage of how Philly reacts to a win or a loss.
I was speaking on last week's episode to Brian Gilbert, who was Saquon Barkley's high school coach, and
Uh-huh.
he was saying that no city celebrates wins like Philadelphia.
No, I would agree with that. They have to grease the poles
That's what he
to
said.
try to keep people from climbing them. It's that kind of a city that people just want to get out in the street. Even after the NFC Championship game, there were people climbing some poles. It's great to see. It just brings the city together. The fans come out into the street around City Hall, and they're out there just in numbers, shoulder to shoulder. Some people setting off fireworks, and they're all just out there celebrating. It is a very passionate sports city, which is one of the things I love. I grew up there, so this is not just a job. It's as a fan, I grew up a fan of the Eagles, and so for me, it's doubly special when they get to this point to try to do something like this. It's a lot of fun to cover.
Scott, thank you very, very much for joining the huddle today. I know we appreciate you've jumped on your phone a very last minute to be on this episode, so it's much appreciated. And safe flight back to Philly and enjoy the game on Sunday.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Joining the huddle now is Kansas City Chiefs beat writer, host of USA Today's The Chiefs Wire, which you can find over on X at The Chiefs Wire, Ed Easton. Ed, thank you very much for joining us. You were just saying there before we kicked off, 6 years you've been in the job. If you wanted to be a beat writer for a successful team, you've certainly got the best job in the world.
Yeah, well, definitely. First of all, it's a pleasure to be on here. And it's definitely been a journey. When I first got on, they were just coming off the big loss to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. And there was, a lot of uncertainty in whether or not they were going to do. They were making a change in defensive coordinator. And I think we all know how that worked out. So it was a big transition in terms of what was going on with the team. So I don't think anyone expected this level of success, but they did see good things on the horizon.
Yeah, we'll get to Spags in a bit. You also said that you've just this second got off a Super Bowl press conference, a virtual one, I assume. Who was on there? Was there any sort of interesting lines that have come out of that?
So it was kind of like a last-minute conversation with a lot of local media before they make the trip over to New Orleans, which they'll do over the weekend. And just kind of a state of where the team is at, what their mentality was, what they've gone through. I think one of the biggest talking points was on Patrick Mahomes' legacy and about being known as the villain now because they've been to the Super Bowl so often. I really enjoyed Andy Reid's take on it. He says he doesn't listen to anything. He doesn't pay attention to any of that stuff all season. He doesn't mind being called a villain. This is just part of the game. So they have that type of mentality. It's all about winning right now. They're not thinking about what the outside noise is saying. They're all about everybody inside the building and what they have to do.
I'm sure you've seen that map from that Patriots game of where it shows in the USA who people are supporting, and everyone was supporting the Chiefs. And now it's sort of, now you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I know you were on a podcast the other day where you were talking about the worthy catch or the disputed worthy catch in that Buffalo Bills game, saying it's been blown out of proportion. It's been the storyline, I guess, from outside the Chiefs world that the refs are involved every single game.
Yes, it's seen so much. And I just think that because of all the attention that is on the Chiefs and whether or not, the referees, it's a whole conspiracy to make Patrick Mahomes the greatest quarterback of all time. I think I've heard every different angle of that. But we see this so often in the NFL, and everyone knows the rule. If both guys catch the ball, the offense and the defensive player, it automatically goes to the offense. That's just the letter of the law. Now, the only thing that was a dispute was possibly did he drop the ball when they landed. And you saw they maintained possession. The ball didn't move once it hit the ground. That means it's a catch. So that was the only thing that was worth disputing. I just felt like it was really blown out of proportion. It wasn't. It didn't have to be that deep for everyone to have their different angles of it. And I know the other call that we might talk about is the whole fourth down play, 4th and 1. To me, that was one of those judgment calls where only the refs could see that. We could see it from home where we're saying, oh, okay, it looks like he's over, but at the same time, on this angle, it doesn't look like he's over. It's a judgment call at the end of the day. If we didn't have replay, I still think they say he doesn't make it. I just don't see them overturning that call because you kind of have to go with what's being seen on the field. And if you can't tell a replay, you got to go with the first call.
I thought it was interesting. We could digest 1,000,001 Chiefs refereeing calls this season. Every single game seems to have them. Even as a Chiefs writer, has there been one where you've gone, they've got away with it here?
You know what? I don't know if the right word is gotten away with it. I would just say that it may or may not have been called. But you can go back to the divisional round game. The call of roughing the passer on for Mahomes. They said that it was a roughing the passer penalty, and this was in the first half, I believe. And you could tell, yes, there was a little bit of contact on the helmet, but not enough to really warrant a roughing the passer penalty. But they called it. So it's one of those situations where, by the rule, it is correct. Was it as egregious as some of the stuff we've seen in other games? No, it wasn't. But that's just what they called. So you can't say like this. You can't say that was the wrong call. It was more like I could see them not calling that.
Talking off Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's the focal point of the team. Obviously, he's the main man in town. Everyone wants to talk about him. Aiming to become a 4-time Super Bowl champion, the first to win it 3 times in a row. He probably hasn't been as prolific in the last few seasons scoring-wise, but he's still that guy, isn't he?
Oh, it's more about efficiency now. I think in these first couple of years, it was about, okay, let's play almost like we did in college, where you're just making throws down the field, taking whatever, is there. It was hard for defenses his first year as a starter to adjust to who he was as a quarterback. Guy has a strong arm, accurate arm. He's willing to scramble. You see he makes these miraculous plays that only he can make. So defenses were like caught off guard by his first season. That's why he won the MVP. He had about almost 50 touchdown passes. You did see over the next couple of seasons, and he said this himself, the reason why he wasn't thinking about, okay, throwing a bunch of touchdown passes and all these yards, he wanted to be more efficient because defenses were now reading him differently. It's a whole, how can I say this? It's the game is so much faster than it is in college, so that the players have all week to prepare for you. If they've never seen you before, it's easier to just go out there and just sling it. And once they've seen you a couple times, they're going to get your tendencies. They're going to see how often you go to Kelsey. Now they're going to know, okay, let's take Kelsey away. Let's make this wide receiver beat us. The Chiefs in the early years, they didn't have a lot of big name wide receivers outside of Tyreek Hill. It was just Tyreek Hill, you had Kelsey, and then next to him would probably be like Sammy Watkins or Byron Pringle. These weren't like marquee names. So once teams started to figure out, okay, we can force Mahomes this way or take away this option, it'll be a little easier to beat him. So that brings the numbers down. So now Mahomes has to look at it. And he said this, I think a couple of years ago on a podcast where for the first time in his career as a football player, he now knows how to read defenses. So, like, he was good. Mind you, this is after winning the MVP. But he said now he's working with Andy Reid, working with Steve Spagnuolo and the whole coaching staff. He knows how to really read a defense and make the right football play. Because there were so many times where he would just throw across his body and just make this highlight play. He still does it sometimes, but not as often. Because now he knows, okay, I got to dump it off here. Okay, I got to make this read here. All these things matter when it comes down to how you prepare for a game as well as how you execute. So it's all about efficiency now.
It says something about his talent that in the first couple of years he wasn't reading defenses and was still throwing 50 touchdown passes, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Crazy. Once in a generation sort of player. We mentioned Spags. It was another masterclass from him against the Bills. The cover zero blitz on that fourth down at the end of the game really just sort of epitomized how brilliant a play caller he is.
Oh, without question. And the interesting thing, he's been doing this his entire career. He's already won all these Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator. There's a lot of people talking about whether or not he should be the first coordinator to be into the Hall of Fame, because there's never been a coordinator inducted into the Hall of Fame. But he could be the first. You look at, I'm going back to his year with the Giants when they beat the Patriots in the 2007 season. And you saw the pressure. He was throwing at Tom Brady, throwing at any type of Patriots setup that it threw them off. This was the undefeated Patriots. I got to keep reminding people of this. So he knows probably better than most coaches when to dial up a blitz and when not to. That game against the Bills was the perfect example of what he's done his entire career. He didn't blitz that often in the first half. They showed a lot of blitz, but he didn't actually blitz. There was a lot of drop back into coverage. He throws so many different defensive backs. And I almost challenge you or anybody that's listening to try to guess how many different defensive backs were out there per series. It's not the same personnel. He switches it up on purpose. Chris Jones is such an integral part of that group because you're talking about a guy that demands a double team each time he's out there. So because he's demanding a double team, you're having a guy like Josh Allen throughout the whole game say, okay, I got to either get rid of the ball quick or I have to work with whatever I have in the middle of the field. So he worked the middle of the field for most of the game. So when he comes down to the fourth quarter now, mind you, Spags has not blitzed as much. A lot of the pressure and everything that he was getting was from the defensive line. He wasn't sending any corners. He wasn't sending any linebackers. Fourth quarter comes, the Chiefs have the lead. What does he do? Opens the playbook out. And can you name one defensive coordinator in NFL history that would send their best cornerback, their all-pro corner, Trent McDuffie, on a blitz in the clutch? I don't think anybody would do that.
No, not me. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Khalil Shakir was sort of behind Josh Allen. He could never see him. He was the only option, really. I still think it's amazing Allen managed to get the ball to a potential receiver, although Dalton Kincaid dropped it. But that, he was put under so much pressure. I saw someone put on X, it was like, why didn't he throw to Shakir? And then someone just circled the three Chiefs players blitzing him. That's why. So a genius play. On the offensive side of the ball in that game as well, the design quarterback run, I think I saw it was only the third time they've drawn up a design quarterback run for Mahomes since he dislocated his knee 6 years back. Yes. I mean, the grit he showed as well, lowering the shoulder, that's what you want to see, isn't it, as a fan?
Oh, it's definitely what you want to see as a fan, but not what you want to see as a head coach. I mean, Andy Reid, he holds his breath whenever he sees any type of contact to Mahomes. And just going back to, he did this earlier in the season against the San Francisco 49ers, where he lowered his shoulder and scored a touchdown. And it was such a huge viral moment because, he bowls over a defensive player, like a quarterback. That just doesn't happen often, especially a guy like Mahomes who doesn't technically run for contact like a Josh Allen might, or even like a Lamar Jackson. So to see that and knows that he has that ability to do that is impressive. Now, he's often, during practice and during his press conferences during the years, has always said, I want to run the football. He kept saying, I want to do the tush push. I want to quarterback sneak. After having the whole kneecap injury, like you said years ago, Andy Reid and that offensive coaching staff, they will not let that happen. They do not want that. He's openly said it. We don't have to do it. We're not doing it. It would have to be an extreme situation like the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl for him to consider it.
Yeah, I think it was Malik Mustafa who he trucked in that 49ers game. I think that we all just went flipping heck because that's a big guy who he ran over as well. As I said, he could do everything. The thing he couldn't do was spike the ball. Did you see this in the celebration? I know it's not important, it's not relevant, but God, it was a funny moment.
It's actually very important too. I had a conversation with Rob Gronkowski about it yesterday, and I asked him. I said, "What are your thoughts on that spike?" And first thing he said, he broke it down. He said it's a bad spike. I'm not going to go into the full detail. I will say check it out on the Chiefs Wire. We have it up there. It's going to be up there today. But it was very funny commentary on it because he even admitted himself. He tweeted out saying, this wasn't good. It was a bad job. I love stuff like that. That's the fun of the game.
Oh, yeah, it was brilliant. And so defense was great. Offense was great. And even then on special teams, I know the player that you wrote about, I think yesterday, is Nico Remigio. The last few weeks as a returner has broken off a good few runs to set the Chiefs up in really good field position.
Yeah, and it's funny because he was so good, like you were saying, in training camp that you couldn't ignore it. They made sure they kept him on the practice squad. And when the injury happened to McCole Hardman, that opened up the opportunity for him to play. And I thought the best part about what he said, and what I actually wrote about too, was that it took Travis Kelce to have to get in his face to kind of motivate him because he went into I know you probably remember watching that when he did the fair catch. And that fair catch is what got Kelce to walk over him to say, hey, you got to be great. You got to want to be great. So he used that as motivation, and there you go, 41-yard punt return.
And Kelce's a nice segue to the next point I wanted to bring up because a bit like what Mahomes not throwing 50 touchdowns this year, Kelce's not been that prolific in terms of the stats. The numbers haven't been what it was in the last few years. AFC Championship, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it, but I think off the top of my head, 2 or 3 catches in that game against the Bills. But going into the Super Bowl, even though he's had a quieter year, he's still the player that Mahomes trusts. And I've seen Andy Reid talking about him. There's no lack of faith in him this season. It's just been a case of spreading the ball around and being more efficient.
Oh, 100%. It's all about just, and with Kelce and Mahomes, you have to put them in their own category. There's times where, and Andy Reid has said it, they don't draw special plays just for Kelce. It's more about Kelce finds a way to get open. He runs kind of his own route. There were a couple of games this season where he actually won the game just by running his own route. I go back to the game that clinched the AFC West. It was a Sunday night football game against the Chargers. To end the game, and you see Kelce on his knees catching a pass, that was not a route. That was just him okay, we're scrambling, I'm just going to sit here. And that's really all it was. That type of chemistry, you can't just design. There is no play for that. And Kelce being a postseason guy, a guy that knows in the clutch when he's needed. Last week, they had so much attention on him because of what he did in the divisional round. But because of that, a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster gets 2 catches for 60 yards, 2 big catches. Like we sometimes tend to overlook that, how important he was. Hollywood Brown got more opportunities. So it all kind of balances out. And Kelce, at the end of the day, just cares about winning. Because if he only cared about stats, he would have played last year's game when he needed like 7 yards for 1,000 to continue his streak of 1,000 yards. He decided to sit out a meaningless game because he wanted to be ready for the postseason. That's just the type of player he is at this point in his career. Yes, he's 35 years old. He says he still wants to play, but things change. But more importantly, he wants to win. That's the number one thing he keeps saying. He doesn't care anymore about the individual accolades and records. It's all about winning right now.
Against the Bills, I think it was the first time the Chiefs put up more than 30 points in a game this season, which was a stat that followed them throughout the regular season, which was a real statistical anomaly. In my opinion, and you all know better than me, but I think they might well have to do that again in New Orleans if they are to win the Super Bowl.
Well, they're definitely going to have to put up some points. This is a good Eagles team. You got on that offensive side of the ball for Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts has been playing a lot better. They still have A.J. Brown. They still have, in my opinion, the MVP, Saquon Barkley. I just think Saquon Barkley has made that team. He's the reason why they're in the Super Bowl. Let's not ignore anything else because it's a very talented team, but he brought a dynamic that they haven't seen there in so many years in terms of a running back that just took over a game. He ends games on his own. There's always a big run he's going to have, and it's usually when they need it the most. I think that when you talk about the Chiefs and their offense, it has gotten better each week. And I go back to the game they played in Week 11 against the Bills, where they kind of just woke up. They realized the biggest thing was the efficiency, and also that they have to make sure they don't turn the ball over. They hadn't had a turnover in 8 weeks, going up until the AFC Championship game where they had that botched handoff to Isaiah Pacheco. That was the first turnover they had since Week 11. So they've been so good with taking care of football, and it goes back to Mahomes just realizing it's all about being efficient. We're not trying to put up 400 yards a game, 500 yards a game. It's about what can we do that's enough to win. The defense is going to do its job. It has always done its job the entire year, but we have to know when to score points and when to be efficient. And the biggest thing is how to close games out. There's no better team in the NFL than the Chiefs that knows how to close games out.
The Bills is a lovely warm-up for tush-push defense. I know it's another story you wrote about this week because Casey did brilliantly stopping Josh Allen multiple times, a two-point conversion on a fourth down as well. I think maybe a couple of fourth downs where they went for that tush-push to throw Josh Allen through. Jalen Hurts isn't the same sort of physique as Josh Allen, but the Eagles are the master of that dark arts, whether you like the tush-push or not. It's here, it's a thing, and the Eagles are going to run it. I think it was 6 times in a row at the goal line against Washington the other day with all the flags. That kick coming in with Luvu diving over, which was quite comical, a good moment of that game to watch. Is it easy to translate that now to the Eagles game, or is it just, different team, different system?
It's very different because their version of the tush push going by the Bills, it's more about Josh Allen, his physicality, how big he is. The offensive line is good, but that's not really the main focus. You got the strong upper body of a guy like Josh Allen that can reach out and kind of just force his way over the line, whether it's the short yardage or just at the goal line to score a touchdown. And he always tended to go on the left side of the guard. And that's what if you notice that, if you look back at all his quarterback sneaks or whatever they wanted to call it, we said tush push because it's kind of the same thing. But whatever you want to call it, he's always going over the left guard. And the Chiefs noticed this right away. That was one of their big adjustments. And I believe Joshua Williams was talking about it. He was saying how Spags was focused on that to make sure that they knew to hit right there. Because every single play, if you watch it back, and they have the entire game on YouTube now, the NFL uploaded it, he goes by the same place every time. So that is going to be different from the Eagles because the Eagles it's more up the middle. When you got Jalen Hurts, who is one of the strongest quarterbacks in the NFL, you got to give him his credit. His level of gravity and the way he pushes, and that line is so good. That offensive line, I keep talking about how good that Eagles offensive line is. They know how to push. So it's not going to be the same. I think they're going to have problems because it's going to be up the middle. Everything's up the middle. Yes, the Chiefs have Chris Jones. Yes, they have Mike Dannon. Yes, they have all these great players up the middle, Mike Pennell. But this is the team they've worked it to perfection. I was a little concerned at first. I thought Jason Kelce would be a big part of it in terms of last year, and not having him this year would affect the effectiveness of it. But they're still good. It's just about they know the play, and it's their play. Let's be fair. Everyone's copycats. It's the Eagles' play. It's the brotherly shove is what they call it. So
how do you see the game playing out then in New Orleans, the Super Bowl?
You know what? I think it's going to be a close game for the first half, And I think towards the second half, once both teams are familiar with each other, kind of like what happened last year, I think the Chiefs win by 2 scores. I just feel confident about that. I think their offense knows who they are. They're very comfortable. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be, I think, a bigger part of the offensive game plan this time around, especially in the red zone. So I look at it and I say the Eagles are going to be a tough out, but it's going to be a 2-score game, and Chiefs are going to be getting that 3-peat.
And if they do, if your prediction is right and they win it for a 3rd straight year, where does both this Chiefs dynasty rank and also Mahomes as a quarterback? He's still, I can't remember exactly how old he is, 28, 29.
Yes.
But where would he rank as one of the, we've still got to talk about all-time greats, even though he's not hit 30 yet.
He's definitely going to be number 2. He's number 2 until he passes Brady. That's just the rule. It's like Tom Brady still has 7 rings. We can't ignore that. And I think, to me, what cemented Tom Brady was that he went to another team, whole different system, and won in his first year. So, and he beat the Chiefs. You know what I mean? So those things, if I had to rank each quarterback right now, I got to go Tom Brady over Mahomes, just because he did beat him face to, they played each other. So it wasn't like you had to fantasy guess it. They played each other. Brady was on a brand new system during a COVID year. I mean, what else can you say? So I think after the win, Mahomes is just going to cement himself as number 2 until he gets to 7.
And then as a team, the Chiefs, everyone wants to talk about the Patriots dynasty with Brady before that, but, or the Steelers or whoever, great teams they've been in the past, the Redskins in the late 80s. Would this Chiefs team be the best, as in what they've achieved? This 3-peat had never been done before.
I think they'll be top. It's tough to tell because I don't think they're done. It's one of those things until like Kelsey or one of those guys retires or leaves, and I would question. I still, I would give it to the team. I say this would be the best run that any NFL team has ever had. I don't think anybody can question that. Yes, the Patriots have been good, but the Patriots didn't have really haters. They had more controversies. They had things, behind the scenes, like that they have been, whether it was Deflategate or Spygate, they had all those things hovering around them. The Chiefs is more about conspiracy. It's more about, are the referees on their side? It's more about that type of thing. So that's where I would go for organization. I would go straight with the Chiefs. But I think the real story is more like Andy Reid being one of the top coaches of all time. And I think that's the conversation we got to have.
Where would you put him then if you're having the conversation? What coaches would you say would go above him, if any?
I think just Belichick. And, I don't want to, I know people will be like, well, what Don Shula? What about all these classic head coaches? I agree, great. The only thing that I would put, the reason why I put Andy Reid is because he transformed the Eagles into a perennial, team that goes to the NFC championship game every year. They only went to 1 Super Bowl and they lost. Comes to a Chiefs team that I believe only won like 3 or 2 games the year before. And then they're in the playoffs every year. And obviously they're winning Super Bowls. He also won a Super Bowl as a coordinator with the Green Bay Packers. I feel like Andy Reid has proved that his system and his culture, it transcends anywhere he goes. Like he's been the commonplace in regards to excellence wherever he goes and whatever players that he works with. He doesn't give up on guys. I go back to Michael Vick. Him bringing Michael Vick in when no one else wanted him, and Michael Vick came back and was an MVP caliber player again. Who else is going to do that? So those are things I look at with Andy Reid. Belichick is number 1 because Belichick, once again, his style is what people try to copy to today. They still try to copy the Patriots way. It still looks like the Patriots are the team I'm favoring right now, even though I'm not. But I still feel like you got to put Belichick 1, Andy Reid 2.
Well, if you want to go follow Ed, he's over on X on @Ed Easton Jr. And as I said, the Chiefs Wire as well. Ed, thank you very, very much for joining us. Good luck to the Chiefs. Enjoy New Orleans, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye out. And hopefully a good game. I think it's going to be really tight. I'm not sure if it'll be 2 scores, but I think the Chiefs might just edge it as well. But yes, thank you very much for joining the huddle, and hopefully we'll speak to you again sometime soon.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Well, it'd be remiss of us to not have the Huddle UK writers on for their respective teams ahead of the Super Bowl. Two very, very excited fans joining us now. Shelley and Nathan, if you've been listening to the podcast, you'll have heard them both on for the NFC and AFC Championship games. They came out as the victors. Shelley, it was again a close game. I think your prediction was a field goal to the Chiefs, which was absolutely spot on.
Yes, well, I've been following the Chiefs season, so I know what to expect.
Yeah, you were bang on. And Nathan, I think you were expecting a big win for the Eagles, but not quite to the level that they beat the Commanders.
No, I thought it'd be a really tight game, but in the end, maybe a couple of calls went our way, but we kind of blew them out the water a bit, so I was happy with that one. Meant I can go to bed early.
Did you not watch the whole game?
No, I stayed up, but it would be a lot later if it was tighter because I'd be dead nervous at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you both got the jobs done, whether by the skin of your teeth or by wide margins. Now it's the big one, the rematch of a couple years ago. Still some of the key players from that game involved in this one. Shelley, we'll start with you. Who do you think, I mean, there's probably an obvious answer, but who do you think are the players that are going to carry the Chiefs to the three-peat should they do it on Sunday?
So I think it will be, as it has been most of this season, I think we are going to lean on Kareem Hunt. I can see Travis Kelce having himself a game and balling out, which would be great to see. I think Pacheco is going to do what Pacheco always does and come out big for us. And I think they are our main three that Mahomes is going to lean on. I think our defense as well, they've got a big job ahead of them, especially, with the size of your offensive line. I think that, we're going to have to make sure that we pull it out the bag, but I can see our defense coming in strong and possibly clinching it for us.
Nathan, have you seen the clip of Jordan Mailata shoving AJ Brown into 3 Washington players to make the block for the first Saquon touchdown?
Oh, I've seen and I loved every second.
Brilliant, isn't it? Because he's just giggling and he's running down the sideline to try and make another block. I mean, he's never catching Saquon in a million years. And Saquon, I guess, is as good as Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert. There's some brilliant players on offense for the Eagles, but Saquon Barkley's the guy you're turning to, isn't he?
I mean, I said the last time round I thought we wouldn't lean on him as much. I thought we might get AJ Brown involved, and I was completely wrong. I think you've just got to stick to your guns on this one. We've done it the whole season, where we've lent on him, and he's just provided the goods every time. I still think he'll play a big part, but I think we're seeing last time Kellen Moore was introducing a few new players we've not seen all season. I know Goedert's been out a lot of the season, but we're seeing a lot of jet sweeps involved where we're getting him involved more. So I'm thinking we might lean a bit more on our tight ends, but I'm in the camp as what Shelley said. I think defenses might be on top of it for this one. I hope not, because at the Super Bowl last year, it seemed to drag on a lot. It seemed like defenses were on top. So I'm hoping for a better game than that, but I can't see it going in. I think it's going to be a really tight game.
I guess you're both feeling quite confident. Would that be maybe confidence not the word, but you're not fearing your opponent as much?
We've been here before, in very recent memory. I never take it for granted. It's one of those things that I never go in with, that hubris, that overinflated ego. I think we've got to take each game as it comes, including the Super Bowl. I do like our chances though. So I would say that I feel like my money is safe on the Chiefs, but only time will tell.
See, obviously I'm biased, so I think from what we've seen from Jalen Hurts this year, he takes so much flack and stick. It just doesn't seem to bother, and I think this is a big game for him to step up. But I'm kind of going to say the same as I said when the Chiefs were playing Buffalo. It feels like if it's a tight game near the end, Mahomes seems to step up in the big moments. So if we can get a lead in the second half by 2 or 3 touchdowns, obviously you're confident. But if we've got a 1 touchdown lead and it's going to take Mahomes to drive them down the field to win the game, as we're seeing last time we played them in the Super Bowl, I think there's only going to be one result. But fingers crossed, I'm hoping for another big game from Hurts and Barkley to get us over the line.
Yeah, Barkley needs 30 yards, exactly 30 yards to break the single season record for regular season and postseason yards combined. Do either of you see a world where he doesn't get 30 yards? I was talking to his head coach from high school about this last week. It's just impossible. He's going to break that record, isn't he?
I mean, surely, because it takes him one chance down the field, he pops off a 40 or 50. It might only take him 3 or 4 rushes, but Chiefs are good on run defense, so it's kind of one of them where surely he's going to get one opportunity if he keeps chipping away at the defense, but I mean, 30 yards isn't much to him, surely.
No, Brian Gilbert, his coach, was saying he was like that sort of runner in high school. He said he did 2-yard run, 65-yard touchdown. That's exactly what he's been this season. He's the guy you're fearing, isn't he, Shelley?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've heard so much talk about Saquon all season. He has been phenomenal. He is a force to be reckoned with. And I feel like after watching the tapes, hopefully the Chiefs are prepared for him. I still think he gets that. I still think he does his 30 yards and he gets that, all day long. But yeah, hopefully we can get on top of it.
This is a task that not many teams have been able to do this year, is it? I have to put you on the spot, Nathan. I remember you saying, oh, no, I don't want to do this last time, but I'm going to put you on the spot again. And we'll start with you with the Eagles. Give me a score prediction or just a margin of victory if you don't want to give me exact scores.
So I know I said defenses are going to be on top there, but I've been thinking about it all day because I knew this question was going to come up, and I think we're going to win 37-27. It's in my head. I decided, but I'm going for it.
37, that would be a great game. I mean, I'd be well up for that. Cause
optimistic mind, very optimistic, but I'm going for it.
Shelley, this is where you slam Nathan down and you put a different stuff.
No, I mean, I would love to see a high-scoring game. Obviously, result going the other way, but I would love to see a game where we're putting up loads of points. That would be amazing. It's not really been part of the Chiefs' season, but I think my prediction is going to be 28-31 to the Chiefs. And I think we are down 14-10 at half-time.
Okay, so you think Mahomes come back, or Mahomes magic is what you say. We were speaking to a Chiefs writer earlier in this episode who thinks that the referees and all the malarkey around that is massively exaggerated. As a Chiefs fan, do you think it's gone a bit over the top this year?
Yeah, I think so. And I think even when it's very clear that calls are fair, and they should have been called, and then you've still got all of the kind of discussion on social media and stuff about how the Chiefs get all the calls, it always goes the Chiefs' way. And I think now it's just become habit more than anything. If we get any penalties, then suddenly it's the Chiefs. It's like, well, yeah, he ripped his head off or whatever. But yes, I think it's gone. I think it's gone over the top.
Nathan, would you agree with that, or do you think they do get it a bit easy at times?
During the regular season, I'm not like a big Chiefs watcher. Obviously, when the Eagles are playing, I'm watching them. But it seems, because I watch social media, and it seems like every game it's highlighted at the end. So all season I've been seeing the Chiefs are getting away with murder. I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. I've been seeing it. So I've joined the crew. But then I was kind of watching, I obviously was watching the Eagles game, and I kind of get what Shelley's saying. I feel like when you're winning the game, it's very easy to highlight players. Like I seen Chris, the Washington writer, he highlighted the Barkley player.
Yes.
Absolutely. It was he should have been penalised. What they don't talk about is how Jalen Carter was being held the whole time. And say the one where Barkley got knocked off the field, he got called for unnecessary roughness. They were saying, oh, well, it's Barkley, what else are you meant to do? Well, it's still against the rules, it's still a penalty, you can say what you want. And I kind of see where Shelley's coming from with that. It's one of them where if it's the Chiefs, it's going to get brought up and highlighted more, but during the season, maybe other teams are getting away with it. But they've definitely had calls. There's no denial.
No, and do you know what? There's that Mahomes going out of bounds, and it should have been a flag. All day long it should have been a flag, and he even said himself he knows he shouldn't have done it, and it was missed. But I don't think that that's necessarily because it's gone the Chiefs' way or because the refs are turning a blind eye to the Chiefs or whatever. I feel like actually that call in any other game, that's something that could have gone missing, and it could happen to other teams, but because it's the Chiefs, that's why we're winning. That's why we're where we are, because the refs are on the Chiefs team. And there's an ongoing joke. Obviously, I'm not on Twitter at the moment, but it's at the start of every game, it's like, has everybody written their checks to the refs? Have we paid them off? So, yeah, it's an ongoing joke.
I don't know if you've been watching the Super Bowl press, but I don't know who this guy is, but he's been going around, and Travis Kelce wasn't very happy about it. But it's basically asking him, who's your favourite referee? And then Mahomes didn't mind, and I think he enjoyed it, but Travis Kelce shot him down straight away. So the narrative is there, and it's going to be brought up. If you get one call in this game, it's going to be all over Twitter. But I mean, I'm not going to say anything after our game against Washington. So
I think that's very much an aspect of, I'm not sure if jealousy is the right word, but when teams are succeeding, other teams will do everything they can to try and pick them down. And you allude to Chris's story. I think it's a really well-written story. And it's, you know, he even puts at the end, he wrote it a few days later after the game, after he'd had time to settle down. It's interesting, those sliding doors, that moment where Barkley, it is a really obvious hold on Luvu. And from that, it's 2 touchdowns and a field goal for the Eagles in 2 minutes. And the game, you know, it's not over at that point, but in really fine margins. But I also think the NFL is such a hard game to referee when you've got 7 massive guys blitzing against 7 massive guys. The holds can be so minor at times. Sometimes you see flags for almost nothing, and then other times you get really egregious ones like that completely go missing. I don't think there's any personal favoritism towards the Chiefs. I just think it's a case of when you're winning, people want you to be knocked down a peg or two. I'm not saying I disagree with that. I'd quite like to see the Chiefs get knocked down a peg or two at times, but I don't think it's the referees doing, is what I will say on that. Have you got any plans for the games, the two of you, Shelley?
Yes, we are. We're going to a walkabout bar in Leicester, and so we booked a table there, and they're doing like bottomless wings and things like that. There's a pub quiz, which we know I love, going on before, so we'll be there for the duration of the evening. When we went to book our table, they said they had, you know, they've got quite a crowd coming in, so hopefully it'll be really good vibes, big screens, bottomless wings. What can go wrong?
Funny enough, I'm going to a walkabout bar in Cardiff myself. I'm doing exactly the same night down here in South Wales. I've done it for the last 3 years now. If anyone is in Cardiff and around and sees the Huddle logo, feel free to come up and say hi. Nathan, yourself, you got any plans?
Well, I wanted to keep quiet here, but I've actually got a nice Asda pizza waiting for us. I'm going to take that. I might get a few green Skittles, and I will watch it. This isn't a sympathy thing, but I will watch it alone on my settee and enjoy every minute of it.
Can you buy green specific Skittles?
I will find a way.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just do a whole like green food themed evening, like, you know, have green peppers and guacamole and.
I think you'd run out quite quickly though, wouldn't you? Just loads of broccoli.
I like the idea of it until she said guacamole, to be fair. I thought that sounded really good.
Just loads of green sweets. It's
green sweets, yeah.
You do Mountain Dew, are we calling that green?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah. Or you can do
yourself.
All those special St. Paddy's Day Guinnesses, you know, where they put the green colour dye in it. Are you both working Monday, or have you got the luxury of shaking?
I've got the week off, so
you've got the week off. Oh, how nice! So you can have a celebration with green food or whatever you choose on Monday, if that is the case. I want to see a photo of your green Skittles on Twitter if you get them in. Actually, the video we put up from the last time you were on, a few Chiefs fans who clearly used to follow you before your account got hacked started sharing it, being, look at it, it's our Shelley. Have you got plans to come back? Because I know that the Chiefs fans who ended up following Huddle are missing you over there.
Yeah, lots of people have messaged my husband actually to say, you know, where has she gone? We're missing her, which is really, really lovely. I'm missing everybody too. Yeah, I'll definitely get myself back on there. It's just unfortunate that it's happened when it's happened, but, you know, such is life. But that's so nice.
Well, thank you again to everyone who's supported us on Twitter, or X as it's called. And me and Nathan were talking before we went live. I'm not sure if you'd have seen this, Shelley, but last week we spoke to the Kelsey's high school offensive coordinator, and Jason Kelsey himself shared it. So the video of that has gone about 250,000 views. Big thank you. No chance that the Kelseys would ever be listening to this episode, but if they happen to be, a big thank you. The support of the Kelsey fan base, whether that be the Eagles or the Chiefs, has been great. And I wanted to find out from Jason. I'd love to know who he's supporting. I like, do you support?
I think we know. I think we know which way he's going, don't we?
Well, I don't know.
Eagles all the way. He's not letting us down.
Eagles all the way. All the way.
I think you'd have to. But again, if you're not playing and your brother's there, he's going to be getting it in the neck, isn't he, from Travis going, how dare you?
You know, I think they've got such a good relationship, and I don't think there's any rivalry in that way. I know that Kylie Kelsey will be Eagles all the way. So, you know, I feel like that's where there will be, but obviously he wants to see Travis do well. That's why.
I'm sure you do. Well, both of you, good luck to your teams on Sunday. Enjoy the green food, enjoy the bottomless wings. Sounds like you'll be quite different evenings, but I hope you both enjoy them all the same. Thank you very much to everyone who's listening. It's been an interesting season, the first season of HuddleUK. We've got some brilliant writers, as these two will attest to, over at HuddleUK.com. We're going to add more in the future. We've got some fantasy leagues and loads of stuff to look forward to. So get involved on all the social medias. We're now on TikTok and all the rest of it as well. And you can see the video of this podcast on YouTube. Thank you very much. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and we'll catch you next week.